my name is Ryan Zerbib, and I will be presenting on the determinants of environmental concern in the U.S. So humanity is facing increasing threats from the damaging effects of climate change. Climate change is causing extensive environmental degradation, and this is manifesting in different things like extreme weather events and elevated ambient temperatures. Now, this environmental harm is actually having a concrete effect on human health as well, with high rates of depression and anxiety being recorded worldwide due to this environmental damage. Now, the climate issue is incredibly important because it poses a major threat to the world as a whole and to all societies living on Earth as well. Now, the younger generations should be especially interested in finding solutions to mitigate this issue, because ultimately they will be the ones inheriting a polluted world. As a youth, I am part of this group, and I am committed to finding ways to mitigate the damaging effects of climate change. Yes. Now, a widely recognized method to fight climate change is public policy. For example, some policies that have been used in the past to fight climate change are carbon taxes and cap-and-trade policies. Now, there are many factors that go into shaping public policy, but a major factor of that is public opinion, according to Page and Shapiro. And when it comes to fighting climate change, public opinion can be synonymous with environmental concern. Because of that, it is important to understand the determinants of environmental concern so policymakers can tailor their strategies to resonate more heavily with their constituency and hopefully gain more widespread support for these policies. Now, across the literature, one definition continues to arise, and that is how people judge or feel about the facts, their own actions, and the actions of others that affect the environment. Now, the possible determinants of environmental concern that will be tested in the study can be grouped into three categories: demographic characteristics, trust, and income level. So firstly, we have sex as a variable, and that is a major demographic characteristic that has been widely discussed in literature. Now, some find that males are slightly more environmentally concerned, for example, McDonald and Hara and Strapko. However, Zhao and McCreight, their findings actually contrast this finding. They found that women were slightly more concerned. And because of this discrepancy in the literature, sex will be a variable tested. Similar to sex, age is also disputed in the literature. For example, Arnold asserts that there is an inverse relationship with environmental concern, but Gray et al. Claims there is no relationship at all. Again, because of this dispute, it will be tested. The next category is trust, and trust can be divided into two categories: personal trust and trust in government. Now, high personal trust could lead to greater environmental concern because people who have more trust in others are more likely to engage in community efforts, and ultimately fighting climate change is a community effort. However, this is simply a line of reasoning and needs more research done to confirm this line of reasoning. Next, we have governmental trust. Now,
Just go ahead and reconnect. Not a big deal. Your time's not running. Might be a wireless thing, but it's not a big deal. You can pick up right with the trust slide. That's the one that we're on right now. Very good. Perfect, right there.
Okay, so next we have trust in government, and so high or low trust in government could lead to higher environmental concern or lower environmental concern. If you distrust your policy-making officials, you may think that you may have higher concern for the environment because you think their policy officials aren't doing their job well enough to preserve the environment, or you may think that if you have low trust in government, you may discredit the issues presented by the government and think there is no issue with the environment at all. And because of this complexity, it will be tested in the study. Finally, we have income level, and there are many conflicting effects of income level on environmental concern in the literature. Some find there's a positive income effect, but other research from Ensler and Dijkman find that higher income leads to higher emissions, which would seem to contradict that previous assertion. Also, Lowe argues that there is a negative income effect altogether, which completely contradicts the other assertions, and because of the disputed nature, it will be tested as well. Now, the determinants of environmental concern have not been sufficiently studied in the present. The most recent research done on this uses data from about 2010, which is obviously over a decade from today, and many global surveys have published new editions of their data, so there is a need to evaluate this new data and find the current determinants of environmental concern. And that is why this study aims to find this research question, which is what are the determinants of environmental concern right now, and how do those determinants actually differ from the ones found in 2010? And my hypothesis is that all variables tested in the study will be significant determinants except trust in government. And this hypothesis ultimately stems from a study done by Franzen and Vogel, which I treated as my parent study. They evaluated the determinants of environmental concern in 2010, and because of that, I will be mirroring their method as closely as possible to allow for a valid comparison of our results at the end of the study. Now, for my data, I used the latest edition of the International Social Survey Program. They produced a survey on the environment in 2020, and many other studies use this database, and it is a very credible data source. Now, the method I used was a linear regression model, which was obviously inspired by Franzen and Vogel. To do this regression, first I had to create an environmental index, and I did that by taking 9 of the survey items, which was inspired by Franzen and Vogel. After doing an explanatory factor analysis, they found that those 9 items were related to environmental concern. Once I had those 9 items, I was able to standardize them from 1 to 100 and then regress each of the variables on that index. After that, I was able to compare my results to Franzen and Vogel's results. And here are the results of the regression. As you can see, sex and age were both found to be significant factors, which aligned with Franzen and Vogel's study. The H-squared effect was significant as well. However, Franzen and Vogel did not perform this test with only US data. Next, we have personal trust, and that was found to not be significant, which contrasted Franzen and Vogel's findings. And trust in government I found to be significant, which again contrasted Franzen and Vogel's study. Finally, income, relative household income was found to be significant, which aligned with Franzen and Vogel. So the first variable analyzed was sex, and again, that was similar to Franzen and Vogel to be significant. This study actually found that women were slightly more concerned with men, or slightly more concerned than men. And one prevalent hypothesis for this discrepancy is the safety concerns hypothesis, which basically means that women are more concerned about issues that pose a danger to the safety of their community. And this helps to explain this discrepancy. Next, we have age. Again, that was found to be significant, which was similar to Franzen. The H-squared test was also found to be significant, meaning that at lower ages, environmental concern increases drastically. However, at older ages, the population seems to be a little more dramatically less concerned. And one possible explanation for this could be the education system within the US. At earlier ages, people are learning a lot more about different environmental issues, which could heighten concern. Now, there are some major implications for this. Policymakers could tailor their messaging to resonate more with women and the safety aspect of that, and they could also target more youthful society, hopefully to try to create a more environmentally conscious constituency. Now, next we had trust. So first, personal trust was found to be not significant, which completely differed from Franzen and Vogel. Now, one reason for this is because there is declining trust within the US population. Robinson and Jackson find that each successive birth cohort actually is less trustful of each other in the US. And one reason for this could be heightened political polarization. Hyeon Lee says that political polarization was high in 2016 and has continued to increase till 2020. Next, we have trust in government. Again, that was found to be different from Franzen and Vogel, and it was a significant factor in this study. Now, it is unclear why this discrepancy was occurring. However, there are researchers that agree with this study. For example, Taniguchi says that higher trust leads to more economic sacrifice for the environment. Now, the implications of this, these results could represent a larger societal trend, which is decreasing trust in the U.S. Citizenry, and this could be a threat to social cohesion if true. Also, this could imply that a more trusting society could boost environmental policies. Finally, we have income level, and that again was found to be significant and similar to Franzen and Vogel. Now, many researchers agree with this, and they state that wealthier individuals are able to prioritize environmental preservation because they do not have to worry about economic security. Finally, the implications of this could be that economic advancement could work in tandem with environmental preservation. Now, there were a couple of limitations to this study. Firstly, I am not a statistical expert, so I may have made a mistake when performing my regression model. Next, due to the shortened time frame of this study, I was not able to clean my data source. However, Franzen and Vogel were able to clean their data source, so that yields less credibility to the comparison at the end of the study. Finally, there was a relatively low R-squared value, meaning that individuals are just very difficult to predict, and these variables have a pretty low explanatory power. To sum up, this study found that sex, age, trust in government, and relative household income were determinants, and trust in other people were not determinants of environmental concern. Now, for future research, I recommend exploring more country-level factors and how they relate to environmental concern. This is because, obviously, individual-level factors have less explanatory power. However, more country-level factors will yield more explanatory power since countries have more trends that are easier to predict. Thank you.
Nice job, Ryan. I got a few questions for you, and then we'll wrap it up. For the first one, how did you determine you had a huge database and your analysis produced hundreds of results. So how did you curate those? How did you figure out what it is you wanted to put in front of us in order to come to your conclusions?
Yeah, so like I said, I was not able to clean my data source, so that had a couple of tricky implications. I ultimately decided only to look at major statistical significance changes instead of, for example, the beta values, because the beta values would be impacted by these outliers, but major statistical significance changes would not really be impacted by a couple of outliers. And that's why I chose to only look at the differences of high statistical significance and when there's no statistical significance at all.
Okay. And then as a follow-up to that, how do your findings provide directions for future research? I know you mentioned some future research. Could you tie that future research to your results?
Yeah, so like I said, I think this shows that ultimately individuals are very difficult to predict, and that ultimately yields more power to taking a different avenue, such as looking at these more national factors. For example, one could look at how GDP influences environmental concern or urban density or other country level factors like that, and global environmental strategists, I think, would benefit more from that because those would give more concrete implications and more guidance on how to actually tailor these policies.
Perfect. And then for this final one, let's talk about skills again. So you must have learned a number of different really significant skills in order to finish this project. So what would you identify as probably the biggest skill you obtained, and what else do you think you could apply that to?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing I learned from this was familiarity with different statistical processes and software. I used SPSS, and going in, I had no experience with it at all. However, after this, I am able to run different regressions and manipulate variables and run Z transformations on different data sources. So I think this would also help me in other curiosities. Maybe if I wanted to look at these more national level factors, I would be able to run regressions and actually find this due to my experience with SPSS and this whole research process.